Hi there. Thanks for joining us here at Rhodes Dogs and Conversation as we take a journey into some discovery and hopefully share some things that you didn't know before, or maybe reinforce some things that you knew, or perhaps even help you formulate some questions about things that you want to know more about. Either way, please feel free to join us in the chat and let us know what you think. If you have questions, comments, love to hear from you, and we'll try to address those. So today, the first thing that we're going to do is take a small journey or a large journey into the history of the dog. Where did dogs come from? Did they really develop from wolves? Which wolves did they come from? And we have several sources we're going to take a look at today. And I hope you enjoy this journey of discovery as we dig into the history of dogs. So the first article that we're going to look at comes from the Smithsonian magazine. It was published in 2022, so it's not that old. And it's titled, "A Massive New Wolf Family Tree Dating Back 100,000 Years Could Help Researchers Understand Where Dogs Were First Domesticated." And this was written by Sarah Kuda, who was labeled as a daily correspondent. And it was published June 30th of 2022. So here we go. Scientists and plenty of doting dog owners have long wondered when and where wolves began their evolution to become humanity's best friend. And though they haven't fully solved it, researchers have now added a big new piece to the dog domestication puzzle. Today's modern dogs may have descended from two separate populations of ancient wolves, one in Eastern Asia and another in the Middle East, according to a new paper published this week in Nature. So now instead of just one population of wolves, they're thinking perhaps two separate populations. While two distinct domestication events are possible, another explanation is that dogs were domesticated in one location, then later bred with wolves elsewhere, intermixing their DNA. We can't tell the two different scenarios apart, said Anders Bergstrom, an evolutionary genomist at the Francis Crick Institute and an author of the study to the New York Times, Emily Athens, but we can say that there were at least two source populations of wolves. Researchers generally agree that modern-day dogs evolved from gray wolves, Canis lupus, at least 15,000 years ago, during the last ice age. But nearly everything else about the domestication of dogs is a mystery, including when, where, and with what group of humans wolves began to evolve into dogs. Past research has concluded that dogs may have been first domesticated in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, or possibly in multiple locations, which sounds to me like they're really not sure, but could be here, could be there. We really don't know. This new paper doesn't pinpoint the exact location of dog domestication, but it does offer some important insights into wolf genetics. More than 80 researchers from 16 countries joined together for this research, which involved sequencing the genomes of 66 ancient wolves and analyzing 6 additional previously sequenced genomes from archival remains. The wolves analyzed in this study lived in Europe, Siberia, and North America over the last 100,000 years. With the sequenced genomes in hand, the researchers used computer software to compare and contrast the 72 animals with the genome of today's dogs, creating an ancient genetic family tree. As a whole, the research creates a much more detailed picture of wolf ancestry including around the time of dog origins, Bergstrom says in a statement, which will undoubtedly help scientists get one step closer to figuring out exactly when and where dogs were domesticated. Having this many ancient wolf genomes is a huge advance in the field. Adam Boyko, a canine geneticist at Cornell University who was not involved in the study, tells the New York Times, "I'm sure other researchers are going to love to get their hands on it and explore some of their own pet theories." Did he intentionally do that? Pet theories? Dog pet theories? Despite the diversity of wolf DNA, the researchers didn't find a singular ancient wolf that's directly related to all modern dogs. But they did learn that dogs are more similar genetically to ancient wolves in Asia than wolves in Europe, which builds on previous research that suggests dogs likely originated somewhere in Asia. The samples help narrow down the place of origin, says Yoi Terai, an evolutionary biologist at Japan's Graduate University for Advanced Studies, who was not involved in this paper, to Science's Michael Price. To more directly link dogs with an ancient wolf population, researchers simply need more specimens from all around the world, particularly from samples from the southern hemisphere. But that's challenging because DNA is best preserved in colder climates, hence the more abundant samples from the northern hemisphere used in this study. There are still big parts of the map where we don't have many samples, Bergstrom tells the New Scientist Jason Aaron Muguruza. The scientists were also surprised to learn how genetically connected the various wolf populations remained over tens of thousands of years around the world, which suggests the canines likely traveled and mated periodically. That may have allowed wolves to survive the end of the Ice Age, while many other mammals went extinct, per the New York Times. In addition, the study answered a question that has been perplexing researchers since archaeologists uncovered an 18,000-year-old pup in Siberia in 2019. Was it a wolf or a dog? After studying its genetics, the scientists determined it was a wolf. So it sounds like, at least according to the Smithsonian magazine, that this question is still wide open in so many ways. They're just not sure. They're just not sure when or how the dog separated itself from the wolf. So we also found an article from July 1st, 2015 in Scientific American about how wolf became dog. And it does cite some of the same research and some of these same assumptions. So let's dive into it. If you have questions, if you want me to go over something again, backtrack, please let me know. More than happy to do that as we, again, journey along the history of the wolf into the dog. How wolf became dog. Scientists are racing to solve the enduring mystery of how a large, dangerous carnivore evolved into our best friend. When you've cared for dogs and wild wolves from the time they're little more than a week old and have bottle fed and nurtured them day and night, you are wise to their differences. Since 2008, Sophia Varani, an ethologist at the Wolf Science Center in Austria, and her colleagues have been raising the two species to figure out what makes a dog and a wolf a wolf. At the center, the researchers oversee and study 4 packs of wolves and 4 packs of dogs, containing anywhere from 2 to 6 animals each. They've trained the wolves and dogs to follow basic commands, to walk on leashes, and to use their nose to tap the screen of a computer monitor so they can take cognition tests. Yet, despite having lived and worked with the scientists for 7 years, the wolves retain an independence of mind and behavior that is most undog-like. Interesting. So they've been raised the same, it sounds like, And yet those wolves are still staying wolves, right? Varani says, you can leave a piece of meat on a table and tell one of our dogs no, and he will not take it. But the wolves ignore you. They'll look you in the eye and grab the meat. A disconcerting assertiveness that she's experienced on more than one occasion. And when this happens, she wonders yet again how the wolf ever became the domesticated dog. You can't have an animal, a large carnivore, living with you and behaving like that, she says. You want an animal that's like a dog, one that accepts the word no. So that's interesting to have them raised the same. But again, the dogs are accepting the training of things like not going after that piece of meat that's just sitting there. Whereas the wolves, it seems like, are saying, yeah, no, that's ours and we're taking it. I don't care what you say. So that's a big piece of like instinct, it seems like, that did not get bred out of the wolf and has been mostly bred out of dogs. Most dogs, if they're trained well, you could teach them, to leave food alone unless you tell them, unless you release them and say, okay, go for it. That's all right. Dogs' understanding of the absolute no may be connected to the structure of their packs, which are not egalitarian like those of the wolves, but dictatorial. The center's researchers have discovered wolves can eat together, Varani notes. Even if a dominant wolf flashes its teeth and growls at a subordinate, the lower-ranked member does not move away. The same is not true in dog packs, however. Subordinate dogs will rarely eat at the same time as the dominant one, she observes. They don't even try. Their studies also suggest that rather than expecting to cooperate on tasks with humans, dogs simply want to be told what to do. I find that really interesting about the wolves eating. Again, it seems like there's something in them that says, okay, even if this dominant one is telling me back up, I still need to eat. So I might not eat as close to them as I was. Well, it said it just does not move away. So even more interesting to me, that wolf is just like, I don't care. I made you cranky. You're my pack leader maybe, but I'm eating. I'm not giving up this chance for survival. How the independent-minded, egalitarian wolf changed into the obedient, waiting for orders dog, and what role ancient humans played in achieving this feat baffle Varani. I try to imagine how they did it, and I really can't. Varani is not alone in her bafflement. Although researchers have successfully determined the time, location, and ancestry of nearly every other domesticated species, from sheep to cattle to chickens to guinea pigs, they continue to debate these questions for our best friend, Canis familiaris. Scientists also know why humans developed these other domesticated animals, to have food close at hand, but they do not know what inspired us to allow a large wild carnivore into the family homestead. Yet dogs were the first domesticated species, a status that makes the mystery of their origin that much more perplexing. So a dog, unlike chickens, cows, goats, sheep, they're not providing any sort of food for humans. And yet they are domesticated. As inscrutable as the mystery is, scientists are piecing it together. In the past few years, they've made several breakthroughs. They can now say with confidence that, contrary to received wisdom, dogs are not descended from the gray wolf species that persist today across much of the northern hemisphere, from Alaska to Siberia to Saudi Arabia, but from an unknown and extinct wolf. They are also certain that this domestication event took place while humans were still hunter-gatherers and not after they became agriculturists, as some investigators had proposed. At what time and in what location wolves became dogs, and whether it was only a one-time event, are questions that a large research team composed of once competing scientists has just started to tackle. The researchers are visiting museums, universities, and other institutions around the world to study collections of canine fossils and bones, and they're readying genetic samples from ancient and modern dogs and wolves for the most comprehensive comparison to date. When they're finished, they'll be very close to knowing when and where, if not exactly how, wolves first began down that path toward becoming our trusted companions. Answers to these questions will complement the growing body of evidence for how humans and dogs influenced one another after that relationship was first forged. When modern humans arrived in Europe, perhaps 45,000 years ago, they encountered the gray wolf and other types of wolves, including the megafaunal wolf, which pursued large game such as mammoths. By that time, wolves had already proved themselves among the most successful and adaptable species in the canid family, having spread across Eurasia to Japan and into the Middle East and North America. They were not confined to a single habitat type, but flourished in tundra, steppelands, deserts, forests, coastal regions, and the high altitude of the Tibetan Plateau. And they competed with the newly arrived humans for the same prey: mammoths, deer, oryx, woolly rhinoceroses, antelopes, and horses. In spite of this competition, one type of wolf, perhaps a descendant of a megafaunal wolf, apparently began living close to people. For many years, scientists concurred on the basis of small portions of the genome that this species was the modern gray wolf, Canis lupus, and that this canid alone gave rise to dogs. But last January, geneticists discovered that this long-held fact was wrong. Repeated interbreeding between gray wolves and dogs, which share 99.9% of their DNA, had produced misleading signals in the earlier studies. Such consorting between the two species continues today. Wolves with black coats received the gene for that color from a dog. Shepherd dogs in Georgia's Caucasus Mountains mate so often with the local wolves that hybrid ancestors are found in both species populations, and between 2 and 3% of the sampled animals are first-generation hybrids. Building on the admixture theme, in June, researchers writing in Current Biology reported on the sequencing of DNA from a 35,000-year-old wolf fossil from Siberia. This species appears to have contributed DNA. Little technical difficulty, sorry about that. Switching here. Thanks for hanging with me. All right, building on the admixture theme, in June, researchers writing in Current Biology reported on the sequencing of DNA from a 35,000-year-old wolf fossil from Siberia. This species appears to have contributed DNA to high-latitude dogs, such as huskies, through ancient interbreeding. So then now we're getting some different species there, like the husky. Analyzing whole genomes of living dogs and wolves, last January's study revealed that today's phytos are not the descendants of modern gray wolves. Instead, the two species are sister taxa, descending from an unknown ancestor that has since gone extinct. It was such a long-standing view that the gray wolf we know today was around for hundreds of thousands of years, and that dogs derived from them, says Robert Wayne, an evolutionary geneticist at the University of California, Los Angeles. We're very surprised that they're not. Wayne led the first genetic studies studies proposing the ancestor-descendant relationship between the two species, and more recently was one of the 30 co-authors of the latest study published in PLOS Genetics that debunked that notion. So one way that science is continually evolving, and when they do their research, how things change and what they thought was true now doesn't appear to be. So always have to be careful about what you put out there, as this is definitely how it is. More surprises may come from renewed efforts to nail down the timing and location of dog domestication. Previous studies left a confusing trail. The first analysis, carried out in 1997, focused on the genetic differences between dogs and great wolves and concluded that dogs may have been domesticated some 135,000 years ago. A later study by some members of the same group indicated that dogs originated in the Middle East. But another analysis, which examined the DNA of 1,500 modern dogs that was published in 2009, argued that dogs were first domesticated in southern China less than 16,300 years ago. Then, in 2013, a team of scientists compared the mitochondrial genomes of ancient European and American dogs and wolves with their modern counterparts. It concluded that dogs originated in Europe between 32,000 and 19,000 years ago. Again, it just seems like they're just not sure. And there's so much out there that is contradicting what they originally thought, that it's interesting to find out how these things are changing. And I'm sure some of it's changing with the advances in science, such as being able to dig deeper into the genetics. Evolutionary biologist Gregor Larson of the University of Oxford, who's co-leading the recently launched multidisciplinary dog domestication project, said the previous studies, while important, have shortcomings. He faults the 1997 and 2009 studies for relying solely on DNA from modern dogs, and the last one for its geographically limited samples. You can't solve this problem by using modern animals alone as windows to the past. The studies of modern dog DNA are not sufficiently informative, he explains, because people have moved and interbred dogs around the world numerous times, blurring their genetic heritage. Any regional signatures that might have helped identify where they were domesticated has long since been lost. To further muddy the picture, wolves have a ridiculously broad distribution across the world, Larson explains. In contrast, he points out, the ancestors of most other domesticated species, such as sheep and chickens, had much smaller geographical ranges, making it far easier to trace their origins. Larson suspects that several geographically disparate populations of the ancestral wolf species may have contributed to the making of today's dog. It would not be the first time such a thing happened. Larson has shown that pigs were domesticated twice, once in the Near East and once in Europe. Intriguingly, enigmatic fossils from Belgium, the Czech Republic, and southwestern Siberia that date to between 36,000 and 33,000 years ago and exhibit a mix of wolf and dog features hint at the possibility of at least 3 independent instances of domestication attempts from an ancestral wolf. But the anatomical characteristics of these fossils alone cannot answer the question of where dogs came from. To solve the dog domestication puzzle, Larson and his collaborators are using 2 key techniques employed in the pig study. They're undertaking a more thorough analysis of thousands of modern and ancient samples of dog and wolf DNA from individuals across the globe, and are using a fairly new technique for measuring bones. Called geometric morphometrics, this method enables scientists to quantify certain traits, such as the curves of a skull, and so better compare the bones of individuals. Previously, researchers relied primarily on the length of a canid's snout and the size of canine teeth to distinguish dogs from wolves. Dog snouts are generally shorter, their canines are smaller, and their teeth are, on the whole, more crowded than those of wolves. The new method should identify other, perhaps more telling differences. Together, these techniques should yield a far more detailed picture of dog domestication than any other approach has to date. One thing I found interesting that they kind of talk about their hint at there is that dogs and wolves, even though they have like different size of a mouth, have the same number of teeth. And I'm sure that isn't always true. There's always some anomalies, but even though the wolf has that larger jaw, it has the same number of teeth. They didn't give them extra teeth. Close encounters. Although the when and where of dog domestication remain open questions, scientists now have a general idea of which kind of human society was the first to establish a close relationship with dogs. Perhaps not surprisingly, this question, too, has generated debate over the years. Some investigators have argued that settled agriculturists had that distinction. After all, the other domesticated animal species all entered the human realm after people started farming and putting down roots. But other researchers credit earlier hunter-gatherers with being the first to have dogs. Wayne says that his team's latest DNA study has at last ended this part of the debate. That's interesting, because it seems like other times that they thought that debate was perhaps ended, not so much. There's still more to find out. The domestication of dog occurred prior to the agricultural revolution, he asserts. It happened when people were still hunter-gatherers. Sometime between 32,000 and 18,800 years ago. Agriculture is thought to have begun in a big way, roughly 12,000 years ago in the Middle East. And that finding leads back to the questions Varani and most everyone who owns and loves a dog has. How did these hunter-gatherers do it? Or did they? What if the first dogs, which it's important to remember would have at first been more wolf than dog, showed up on their own? The genus Canis goes back about 7 million years. That's a long time. According to them, 7 million years. And although some members of that group, such as jackals and the Ethiopian wolf, lived in Africa, the birthplace of humanity, there's no evidence that the earliest humans tried to domesticate any of these species. Only after modern humans spread out from Africa and into Europe 45,000 years ago did the wolf-dog-human triad begin to form. Hints about the evolving relationship between canids and early modern humans have come from the paleontological and archaeological records. Take the canid remains unearthed between 1894 and 1930 at Predmosti, a roughly 27,000-year-old settlement in the Bekva Valley in what is now the Czech Republic. The ancient people who lived and died there are known to us as the Gravettians, after a site with similar cultural artifacts in La Gravette, France. The Czech Gravettians were mammoth hunters, killing more than 1,000 of the great creatures at this one site alone. They ate the behemoth's meat, used their shoulder blades to cover human remains, and decorated their tusks with engravings. They also killed wolves. Canids are a most abundant type of mammal at the site after mammoths, and the remains include 7 complete skulls. But some of the canid skulls do not look exactly like those of wolves. 3 in particular stand out, says Mita Germampre, a paleontologist at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels. Compared with the wolf skulls found at Promotsti, the 3 unusual ones, quote, have shorter snouts, broader brain cases, and crowded teeth, she notes. These kinds of anatomical changes are the first signs of domestication, Germampre and others say. Similar changes are found in the skulls of the silver foxes that are the focus of a famous long-running experiment at Novosibirsk State University in Russia. I am so sorry if I am butchering some of these names. Since 1959, researchers there have selected the foxes for tameness and bred them. Over the generations, their coats have become spotted, their ears floppy, their tails curly, their snouts shorter and wider, even though the scientists have been selecting only for behavior. Similar changes are seen in other domesticated species, including rats and mink. Investigators have yet to explain why docile animals are consistently altered in these ways. They do know that the tame silver foxes have smaller adrenal glands and much lower levels of adrenaline than their wild counterparts. Interesting, adrenaline, that thing that makes you go, go, go. And apparently the tamer ones, even though it says that they're only, since they're being bred for tameness, that's one of the things that's coming through, it appears. Less adrenaline. Less adrenaline, easier to control, maybe? That's why that tameness? Last year, other scientists came up with a testable hypothesis. Tame animals may have fewer or defective neural crest cells. These embryonic cells play a key role in the development of the teeth, jaw, ears, and pigment-producing cells, as well as the nervous system, including the fight-or-flight response. If they are right, then all of those cute domestic traits, spotted coats, curly tails, floppy ears, are a side effect of domestication. That's interesting, especially when you look at some of the dog species that normally have the upright ears, as opposed to a regular floppy ear. That's interesting. Germampre suspects that the apparent domestication at Promotsti was a dead-end event. She doubts that these animals are related to today's dogs. Nevertheless, to Germampre, they are dogs, Paleolithic dogs. She says these early dogs probably looked very much like today's huskies, although they would have been larger, about the size of a German shepherd. Germampre calls the Promotsti specimens dogs because of what she interprets as some type of relationship between the canids and gravidians. For instance, a dog's lower jaw was found near a child's skeleton, according to the diary of the original excavator. The dogs were also included in rituals in ways that other species were not. In one case, a gravidian tucked what is most likely a piece of mammoth bone between the front teeth of one of the dog's skulls after the animal died, and arranged its jaws so that they clamped together on the bone. Germampre suspects that an ancient mammoth hunter placed the bone there as part of a ritual related to hunting, or to help sustain in death an animal the hunter revered, or to enable the dog to assist a human in the afterlife. You see this kind of thing in the ethnographic record, she says, citing as one example a Chuki ceremony in Siberia for a deceased woman in the early 20th century. A reindeer was sacrificed and its stomach placed in the mouth of a dead dog's head, which was then positioned to protect the woman on her death journey. Many researchers imagine that these early people set about making the wolf into the dog to help us hunt big game. In her book, The Invaders, published by Harvard University Press earlier this year, anthropologist Pat Shipman argues that the first dogs, or wolf dogs as she calls them, were like a new and superior technology and helped the mammoth-hunting modern humans outcompete the Neanderthals. But she, Wayne, Larson, and others think that wolves joined forces with humans on their own, that the canny, adaptable canids identified us as a new ecological niche they could exploit. The alternative scenario, people brazenly raiding wolf dens to steal pups young enough for taming, would have been a dangerous undertaking, and raising wolves in camps with young children would have presented another serious risk. We didn't do domestication deliberately. Not at first, Larson surmises. Instead, wolves most likely started following people for the same reason that ants trail into our kitchens, to take advantage of a nutritional resource, our trash. Over some time, some of these camp-following wolves increasingly lost their fear of people, and vice versa, and a mutually beneficial relationship developed. Wolf dogs would sniff out prey for us, and we would share the results and meet with them. Circumstantial evidence for this scenario comes from the silver fox experiment. By selecting foxes that were less fearful of humans, the researchers at Novosibirsk eventually developed a silver fox that runs to greet people. Most silver foxes in captivity hide in the back of their cage. And I've heard that before. I've heard that foxes are actually very shy. Would you want to own a fox? What do you think? They're kind of cute. There's just one problem with this imagined event, at least at Predmosty. Djimampre's early dogs were not eating mammoth meat, even though that's what the humans were dining on. Isotopic analysis of the Paleolithic dog's bones indicates that they were eating reindeer, which was not a favored food of the people who inhabited the site. The Predmosty dogs also had broken teeth and severe facial injuries, many of which had healed. Those could be signs of fighting with other dogs, Djimampre says, or being hit with sticks. She pictures the human-dog bond developing via the mammoth hunter's canid rituals. In this scenario, the hunter-gatherers brought pups to their camps, perhaps after killing the adult wolves, just as many modern nomadic people bring baby or young animals to their settlements. The mammoth bones at Predmosty show no signs of being gnawed by canids, which suggests they were not free to roam and scavenge people's scraps. Rather, humans probably tied the canids up, fed them what appears to have been second-rate food, given that the humans were not eating it, and even bred them, all to ensure a ready supply of victims for their ritualistic sacrifices. Breeding wolves in captivity would lead to the anatomical changes that Djimampre has documented in the Predmosty dogs, and could even produce a less fearful and independent animal as seen in the Novosibirsk silver foxes. Confined, beaten, fed a restricted diet, the dogs at Predmosty would most likely have understood the meaning of no. There's no evidence at Predmosty or other comparably old sites where dog remains have been uncovered that the ancient hunter-gatherers there regarded the canines as their friends, companions, or hunting pals, Djimampre observes. That relationship came later. If Djimampre is right, then dog domestication may have begun quite early and under circumstances that were not favorable for the dogs. Not every scientist agrees that Djimampre's dogs are dogs, however. Some prefer the wolf dog designation, or simply wolf, because their taxonomic status is not clear either from their morphology or genetics. Larson expects to resolve this question over the course of his mega project. So he's got that in mind to try and answer that question. The earliest undisputed, interesting that it's undisputed, The earliest undisputed dog on record, a 14,000-year-old specimen from a site called Bonn Oberkassel in Germany, tells a very different story of dog domestication, evincing a much more affectionate bond between humans and canines. In the early 1900s, archaeologists excavating the site found the dog's skeleton interred in a grave with the remains of a man about 50 years old and a woman about 20 to 25. When researchers see such associations, they know they are looking at a fully domesticated animal, one that is treasured and regarded so highly that it's given a burial as if it too were a member of its human family. That's interesting. So it was buried with two people. The Bonn Oberkassel dog is not the only ancient hound to have received such honors. In Israel, at Ein Malaha, a hunter-gatherer site dating to 12,000 years ago in the Upper Jordan Valley, archaeologists discovered what's perhaps the most famous dog-human burial. The skeleton of an elderly person lies curled on its right side, its left arm stretched out under the head with the hand resting gently on a puppy. The dog was about 4 to 5 months old and was placed there, archaeologists think, to be a companion to the deceased. Unlike the Predmasti dogs, this puppy was not battered. Its remains were arranged lovingly with someone who may have cared for it. Although such touching dog-human scenes are rare during this period, dog burials are not. And after about 10,000 years ago, the practice of entombing dogs increased. No other animal species is so consistently included in human mortuary rituals. People have come to see dogs in a different light, and this shift in attitude had a profound effect on dogs' evolution. Perhaps during this period, dogs acquired their human social skills, such as abilities to read our facial expressions, understand our pointing gestures, and gaze into our eyes, which increases oxytocin, the love hormone, in both the dog and the owner. Dog burials happen after hunting moves away from the open plains and into dense forests, says Angela Perry, a zoo archaeologist at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, and a specialist on these burials. There's a specialty for you. You get to travel the world looking for graves that have dogs interred with a human. Anytime somebody would dig one up, maybe you got to go there. How exciting would that be? Dogs in open environments might be good for helping you transport meat from killed mammoths, but wouldn't necessarily help you hunt them, she says, noting that elephant hunters do not use dogs. But dogs are excellent for hunting smaller game, such as deer and boar that live in forests. Beginning at least 15,000 years ago, and probably somewhat earlier, Perry says, hunter-gatherers in Europe, Asia, and the Americas began depending on their dogs' hunting skills for survival. Researchers cannot trace a direct genetic line from these animals to our pet pooches. Nevertheless, they say, these animals were unquestionably dogs. Good hunting dogs can find fresh tracks and guide the hunters to the prey and hold them at bay, says Perry, who's joined traditional hunters and their dogs in Japan and the US. When people start using dogs for hunting, you see a switch in how people view them, and you start finding dog burials across the world. Such burials are not rituals or sacrifices, she emphasizes. These are burials of admiration, where the dogs are interred with ochre, stone points, and blades, male tools of hunting. One of the most elaborate dog burials comes from Skatholm, Sweden, and it's dated to about 7,000 years ago. Several dogs were found interred in the same area with dozens of humans. One was particularly celebrated and given the finest treatment there of anyone, human or dog. So according to this dog had a better grave than even any of the humans. The dog was laid on its side, flint chips were scattered at its waist, and red deer antlers and a carved stone hammer were placed with it, and it was sprinkled with red ochre, Perry says. There's no indication of why this dog is so revered, but she suspects it must have been an excellent hunter and that its human owner mourned over its death. You see this relationship among hunters and their dogs today and in the ethnographic record, Perry observes, noting that Tasmanian hunter-gatherers in the late 19th century were quoted as saying, "Our dogs are more important than our children. Without them, we couldn't hunt. We wouldn't survive." Wow. Although, I guess it makes sense, doesn't it? Children are a mouth to feed. The dog can help you feed it. The right dog, anyway. Early dogs provided other important services, too. First known attempt at the kind of intentional selection that has shaped the evolution of Canis familiaris comes from a site in Denmark dating to 8,000 years ago. The ancient hunter-gatherers there had 3 sizes of dogs, possibly bred for certain tasks. "I didn't expect to see something like dog breeds," Perry said, but they had small, medium, and large dogs. It's not clear what they used the small dogs for, but the medium-sized animals had the build of hunting dogs, and the larger ones, which were the size of Greenland sled dogs, about 70 pounds, most likely transported and hauled goods. With their warning barks, all the dogs would have served as camp sentinels, too. Always important to have that protection. Early alarm system. The dog's status plunged when people developed farming. In early agricultural settlements, dog burials are rare. The difference is so strong, Perry says. When people are living as hunter-gatherers, there are tons of dog burials. But as agriculture spreads, the burials end. Dogs are no longer as useful. That fall from grace, though, did not doom them to extinction. Far from it. In many places, they began to turn up on the dinner table, providing a new reason to keep dogs around. And that's still true today, from what I know. There are places that still eat dogs. Not all agricultural cultures consigned Fido to the menu, however. Among those groups that tended livestock, dogs were sometimes bred for herding. Those that proved their worth could still end up pampered in the afterlife. In 2006, archaeologists discovered 80 mummified dogs buried in graves next to their human owners at a 1,000-year-old cemetery near Lima, Peru. The dogs had protected the Chiribaya people's llamas, and in return for their service, were well treated in life and death. Nearly 30 of the dogs were wrapped in finely woven llama wool blankets, and llama and fish bones were set close to their mouth. The region's arid climate mummified the dogs' remains, preserving their fur and tissue. Unwrapped, the mummies resembled the small street dogs that roam Lima today, looking for a human to take them in and tell them what and what not to do. That resemblance notwithstanding, the Chiribaya herding dogs are not related to Lima's modern-day mutts, nor is there any evidence to support claims linking any of the breeds of antiquity anywhere to the modern standard breeds of the American Kennel Club. So interesting. So interesting that they're not finding links between these. Although the Chiribaya dogs and other dog burials in the Americas hail from the wrong place and time to represent the earliest stages of domestication, Larson and his colleagues are happily measuring their bones and sampling their DNA. That's because these early North American dogs descended from ancient European or ancient Asian dogs. Their bones and genes will help the scientists determine how many dog domestication events occurred and where they took place. Thus far, in their attempt to study as many ancient canids as possible, the researchers have analyzed upward of 3,000 wolves, dogs, and other specimens that do not readily fall into either box. More than 50 scientists worldwide are helping with the effort. They expect to have a paper ready on their initial findings by this summer. So that would have been summer of 2022. Will we then finally know where and when the dog became domesticated? I expect we'll be very close to an answer, Larson says, but we still won't know exactly how some long-lost type of wolf managed to become a creature that respects the word no. So I know there are lots of people out there that I've heard of over the years who, oh, I want to own a wolf. Oh, I'd love to have a wolf. Well, these people have, and they sound like professionals, like people who know what they're doing here, and can't get those wolves to respect the word no. And I don't know. Would you want that? Would you want that in your house? Around your kids? When company comes over? That no word is pretty important, I think. Let's see here. We found several articles. However, some of them were, that one was a really comprehensive one that covered most of what was happening in that research. So let's see. All right. We also found, because we're looking at that development of the wolf into the dog, and because here at Rhodes Dogs and Conversation, we have a focus on German Shepherds, which we think are just the most amazing. We found an article from Timberwolf that is comparing German Shepherds versus the wolf and the main differences. So we are going to take a look at that one and see what we think. So we were looking at, where, and they still don't know where. They know it came from a sort of wolf, they think. They're not sure quite when, quite sure how it happened. But we do know, according to science and DNA tests, that dogs and wolves share 99.9% of their DNA. That's quite a large amount. So let's take a look here. So again, this comes from Timberwolf, timberwolfpet.com, if you're interested. It was published on September 15th of 2022. It says German Shepherd versus Wolf, the main differences. German Shepherds and wolves belong to the same genus, which is Canis. This means they're related genetically. German Shepherds are often said to most resemble the wolf with their long noses, big ears, and a lean build. Whilst on the surface they can look similar, these two breeds have lots of differences, which we'll discover today. Some breeders have tried to cross the two breeds to create a wolf dog. However, these have been banned in lots of states, so always do your research before buying one of these puppies. There are people out there breeding wolves and German Shepherds, wolves and other dogs. Be careful. Just be careful. You never know, right? Wolves have never been domesticated and live in packs in the wild, hunting prey that's often significantly larger than they are, which is why a team effort is needed to bring down their kill. A wolf will not want to interact with humans and should not be approached if encountered out on a walk. There are two types of wolves in the wild, the red wolf and the gray wolf, and both can survive completely independently of humans. This means they are not reliant. That's called not reliant, if they don't have to rely on humans for their survival. Nor do they look to us to provide for their basic needs. whereas a domesticated dog will do these things. The German Shepherd originated from Germany and was originally bred as a herding dog. German Shepherds are highly intelligent and loyal and have been used in police and military roles with great success. These dogs are completely domesticated and bond highly to one owner or handler in particular. They make excellent guard and defense dogs whilst being very loving and affectionate toward any children in the home that they've grown up with. German Shepherds can be a little wary of strangers or new animals in the home, so you may need to go slowly with introductions. When it comes to size, and remember, when we're talking about these things, all dogs are individuals, just like all people are individuals. So any blanket statements, we're not saying that all German Shepherds are going to bond with those children. You can't say that. You have to be really careful about making those broad assumptions. So size. The wolf is considerably bigger than a German Shepherd, and it's not something that's commonly realized. A wolf is roughly double in size compared to the average size German Shepherd. Now, according to Timberwolf here, a wolf stands around 26 to 32 inches tall, and that's at the shoulder. And weighs in around 80 to 180 pounds, depending on if they're female or male. Females weighing less generally than the males. 180-pound wolf. Can you imagine? That is a mighty large wolf. A German Shepherd female, so that was 26 to 32 inches. A German Shepherd female generally stands around 22 to 24 inches tall. A male, 24 to 26 inches tall. So again, these are averages. I'm sure there are German Shepherds probably larger than 26 inches tall at the shoulder. So again, remember, these are just probably averages. A female will weigh approximately 50 to 70 pounds, whereas a male will weigh around 60 to 85 pounds. As you can see, this is much smaller than a wolf. Yes, but I've also heard of German Shepherds larger than 85 pounds. So I'm not sure where they're getting their numbers. So again, this is according to timberwolfpet.com. And again, all dogs individual. Interestingly, despite their differences in size and height, both the wolf and German Shepherd have the same number of adult teeth. I wonder if the wolf teeth are larger to fit the wolf mouth, or if they're smaller and just take up less space in the mouth. That'd be interesting to find out. Since the wolf is larger, are its teeth larger since it has the same number? Or are they just taking up less space? All right, the diet, what they're eating. Wolves eat almost a purely carnivorous diet, although they will scavenge when meat options are scarce. They are excellent hunters. Can you imagine a 180-pound wolf hunting? Especially if you're out in those woods with it. Whew. They are excellent hunters and will eat any sort of meat available to them. A wolf can survive on a very small amount of food if needed, around 2.5 pounds per day, but can eat a total of up to 22 pounds of meat at any one sitting. That's a lot of meat. 22 pounds of meat. I can't even imagine what that is. I would have to look up how much space that would take up. That's a lot. A German Shepherd is usually fed a balanced biscuit or wet food diet specifically formulated for their nutritional requirements. This diet often contains vegetables or grains to balance their nutritional needs alongside the protein. Now this I found interesting. A raw or meat diet has not been shown to be significantly better for a German Shepherd's health. Because I know there are people that I've read about who swear by, like a raw diet for their German Shepherd. They only feed them meat. So that, to me, that I thought that was really interesting. Breeding. A German Shepherd dog can be bred 1 to 2 times a year and has on average 8 puppies per litter. German Shepherds can reach sexual maturity from as young as 6 months old, but in comparison, a wolf, according to this, only breeds once a year. And their litter size is smaller, 4 to 6 on average. And they do not reach sexual maturity until about 2 years old. So that's interesting. And although I believe German Shepherds can reach sexual maturity that young, it's my understanding that most people would never breed them that young. Although, people, nature says they're ready. I don't know. The gestational length for German Shepherds and wolves is the same, around 60 to 65 days, which is relatively short for an animal. Both of these breeds will nurse their young in a nest or den and feed exclusively on milk until they're old enough to start the weaning process, usually around 6 to 8 weeks old. Which, I guess, to me, that makes sense, that their gestational period would be that short, or be similar, that 60 to 65 days. But, women, 40 weeks. These guys, that's what, 8 weeks? 9 weeks? What would you think, ladies? Would you rather be pregnant for 9 weeks instead of 9 months? The ever-present question, who would win in a fight? The wolf has the stronger bite power, with PSI of up to 1,200. Wow. 1,200 PSI net bite force. And lots of experience from hunting prey throughout its life in the wild. However, they're shy in nature and will naturally avoid humans and dogs if they feel threatened or are presented with a fight. They'll fight to defend their packs or cubs. A German Shepherd has a much lower PSI, and according to this, it's around 300 PSI, a measurement of bite strength that puts it at a disadvantage in a fight from the start. They're not generally trained to fight and could risk serious injuries if they fight a wolf in the wild. Both dogs are speedy, clocking up speeds between 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. But the wolf is faster than the German Shepherd, so would outrun a German Shepherd if it needed to. That's pretty fast. That's still pretty fast. Summary. Both of these breeds are powerful, athletic, and loyal to their pack. While their DNA and some physical characteristics may be very similar, as breeds of dogs, they are miles apart in personality, stature, and function. A German Shepherd can make a loving family pet, whereas a wolf is a wild animal. Best left to enjoy it remote and untamed lives in the wild and appreciated from afar for its natural beauty. And I do agree with that. I know there are people who want to domesticate that wolf, like I said before, but it's a wild animal. And you go back to that study where they're raising them just like a dog, and that wolf is still like, oh, that steak on the table? Yeah, that's mine. You can tell me no all you want. I'm eating that. And again, German Shepherds share 99.9% of their DNA with wolves and are said to be descendants of the gray wolves, but not the gray wolves of today. Not the gray wolves of today. A descendant of a gray wolf that has long gone extinct. All right. So we have, as we get a little bit more focused in on the German Shepherd itself, we have some information from the AKC, the American Kennel Club, on the history of the German Shepherd itself. And from sheep herding dog to popular companion. And so the German Shepherd did originate in Germany. So we're going to take a look at some of this information. And this is by Denise Flame, and it was last updated May 15th of this year about German Shepherds. And according to the AKC, the German Shepherd is the 4th most popular dog in the United States. 4th most popular in the United States. And that's at least 2 years in a row, because I know it was also, according to the AKC, the 4th most popular in 2023, and here it is again in 2024. So growing up in a wealthy family in mid-19th century Germany, Max Emil Friedrich von Stephanitz had always wanted to study agriculture. He even spent time at a Berlin veterinary school. But instead of pursuing his dream to be a gentleman farmer, he gave in to family pressure and joined the military. Good old family. As a cavalry officer in the German countryside, von Stephanitz came to admire the intelligence and lightning-fast responsiveness of the sheep-herding dogs he met there. But in a time where grazing land was slowly disappearing, these sheepdogs began becoming less popular. So von Stephanitz decided to create a formal breed of German sheepdog, buying a large estate near the Bavarian town of Grafith, where he would raise them. In April 1899, von Stephanitz attended one of the country's largest dog shows, part of his continuing quest for breeding stock, with his friend Arthur Meyer. That is where he spotted a dog named Hector Linkschrein. While the 4-year-old's striking wolf-like appearance doubtless first drew von Stephanitz's eye, his intelligence and depth of character sealed the deal. A gentleman with boundless zest for living is how von Stephanitz described him. Impressed, von Stephanitz gladly handed over 200 German gold marks to purchase the dog on the spot. Von Stephanitz, and I tried to find different charts to do the comparison and figure out what that would be today. But it wasn't working out. So if you can figure that out, let me know. Closest I came was like around $2,000 in American dollars today is what that would have cost him. But I could be entirely wrong. So please, if you know what 200 German gold marks in 1899 would translate to today, let me know. Von Stephanitz gave this prized acquisition a new name, Horrend von Grafith, and soon a new identity. Within a month, von Stephanitz and Meyer founded the world's first German Shepherd dog club. It's Verein für Deutsche Schäferhund. Members included 3 shepherds, 2 factory owners, a mayor, an innkeeper, an architect, and a magistrate. Horund received the inaugural registration number SZ1, effectively making him the first ever German Shepherd dog. For centuries, people had cared more about a sheepdog's functionality rather than its looks. Still, local and regional styles of dogs did develop. Von Stephanitz harnessed these different dogs' traits to produce what he considered the ultimate German herder. Horund came from Thuringia in northern Germany, where dogs of his kind were common. But Horund wasn't a one-off. Instead, Friedrich Sparwasser in Frankfurt had deliberately bred him, focusing on fixing the upright ears and wolf-like body style that so many fanciers admired. From Horund's immediate family, several dogs, his littermate brother Luke's, their parents, and their paternal grandparents, were later registered as German Shepherd dogs as well. So it started as that family. The Thuringian dogs, however, tended to be smaller and stockier, often with wiry coats, curled tails, and sharp temperaments. Von Stephanitz believed that crossing dogs from Württemberg in southern Germany, which were generally larger, heavier boned, and easier to handle, with Thuringian dogs, would provide him with a middle ground. To von Stephanitz, a dog's working ability was as important as its appearance. He disagreed with people who wanted the breed to be just a showpiece. To this day, when German Shepherd dogs are evaluated at dog shows, they undergo a quick temperament test by the judge to make sure their temperaments are stable, which is awesome. You know, you could have the most beautiful dog in the world, but if it's a jerk, who wants that? You don't want to breed that. You need dogs that are stable, even-keeled, ready to go. Horund had already achieved perfection in that department as far as von Stephanitz was concerned. According to von Stephanitz, Horund was untrained in his puppyhood, but nevertheless obedient to the slightest nod when at his master's side. He noted the breed's high energy level, which needed to be channeled. He described the German Shepherd dog as never idle, always on the go, well disposed to harmless people, but no cringer, mad on children, and always in love. A service and war dog. Not surprisingly, von Stephanitz used Horund extensively at stud, working intensely to fix the traits that he found so valuable. Thanks to the success of some of those offspring, in particular his grandsons, Heinz von Starkenberg, Beowulf, and Pilot, Horund's blood flows through the veins of virtually every German Shepherd dog alive today. Isn't that awesome and amazing that you could take the pedigree of almost every German Shepherd dog here and now, 2024, and trace it back? If you could get that pedigree, that genealogy tree, you could take it all the way back to Horund, the very first one. Though the breed was being developed just as World War I was beginning, the German military hadn't yet fully appreciated the value of war dogs. Von Stephanitz relentlessly and successfully promoted his breed as peerless service dogs. He even mourned the fact that Horund had never had the opportunity to prove himself in that respect. What could not have become of such a dog, he asked rhetorically, if we only had at that time military or police service training? World War I brought with it anti-German sentiment across the globe. In the United States, the American Kennel Club directed the German Shepherd Dog Club of America to change its name and the breed's name. The club rechristened itself the Shepherd Club of America and similarly removed the word German from the breed name. The British responded similarly, renaming the breed the Alsatian. But in the aftermath of World War I, the German Shepherd's dog reputation as a war dog spread. Plus, canine film stars such as Rin Tin Tin and Strongheart, war veterans both, ensured a skyrocketing popularity worldwide. American fanciers met von Stephanitz in person in 1930. Geraldine Rockefeller Dodge, the show's wealthy patroness, who was herself a German Shepherd dog breeder, invited him to judge at the famous Morris and Essex Kennel Club show. So many dogs were entered that von Stephanitz was forced to judge both sexes over 2 days. In the European tradition, he wrote a critique on each. Can you imagine? Well, first of all, can you imagine having a handwritten critique by the man who founded the breed? Talk about valuable in more ways than not, than just monetarily. But if you had that critique handwritten by von Stephanitz, that would be amazing. I think it would be awesome to, if there are any to read. Like if people have kept them in their families, they realized what they had and kept it. Just to read what his critiques were of some of those dogs. Because that would have been 31 years after he founded that breed. Wow. The German Shepherd dog always resonated with people from its homeland, even as World War II approached. Hitler was fascinated with German Shepherd dogs, thanks to his relentlessly loyal dog, Prince. A number of Nazis soon joined the breed club. Though von Stephanitz was a man of his times, and not immune to anti-Semitism as some of his writings unfortunately show, he nonetheless resisted the changes, or perhaps loss of control. Eventually forced to resign from the club, von Stephanitz died a year later in 1936. Today, the dog von Stephanitz left behind has become one of the most popular dog breeds in the world. He might be surprised at the varying styles of dogs across different countries and continents, but he would find common ground with modern fanciers in particular, saying, a version of which circulated among breeders of his day, there are wolves, there are dogs, and then there are German Shepherd dogs. Wow. And I go back to, can you imagine having that written critique written by the man himself, having your dog looked at by him? Wow. And I wonder if some people were disappointed in his critique. That's some research right there. Are there any of those critiques still around? And what did he say? And what are the bloodlines that came out of those dogs that he maybe gave high marks to? So we're going to take a look at an article here from YourGSD.com on Max von Stephanitz. A little bit more information on him, and just a little different perspective, written a little differently. So let's take a look at that. It's titled Max von Stephanitz, Architect of the German Shepherd Legacy. Imagine discovering a breed that epitomizes intelligence, loyalty, and versatility. A breed that soon becomes a symbol of exemplary canine partners in various fields. This is the tale of the German Shepherd, and at its very heart is Captain Max von Stephanitz, a visionary who single-handedly crafted what many consider the perfect working dog. As you stand with your German Shepherd by your side, it's fascinating to think that this breed's entire lineage traces back to one man's extraordinary vision at the turn of the 20th century. Through rigorous selective breeding, von Stephanitz honed the physical and mental characteristics that set German Shepherds apart, laying the foundation for a dog that excels in roles ranging from police work to companionship. So you think, that dog That entire line is only 125 years old. That's amazing. To think that 126 years ago, there was no German Shepherd dog. 150 years ago, there was no German Shepherd dog. Abraham Lincoln could not have owned a German Shepherd dog. That's just amazing to me that it's that relatively young, and yet it's such an amazing breed. Woo! The life of Captain Max von Stephanitz. Did you know that the revered German Shepherd breed was sculpted by the dedication of a single visionary? Imagine devoting your life to creating a dog breed that epitomizes intelligence, loyalty, and versatility. This was the life work of Captain Max von Stephanitz, a name synonymous with the German Shepherd. He was born December 1st, 1864, in Germany. He was a cavalry captain and a canine breeder, a dog breeder. He served time in the German cavalry with a dream to breed the ideal working dog. His quest began earnestly upon his retirement when in 1899 he laid his eyes on a dog named Hector Linkschrein. Struck by the dog's intelligence and beauty, von Stephanitz purchased him immediately, renaming him Horrend von Graffith, the first German Shepherd and the model for the breed standard. As you delve into your German Shepherd's ancestry, remember that it all started with Horrend and von Stephanitz's passion. They crafted a breed standard emphasizing utility and intelligence over appearance. Utility, usefulness, and intelligence over appearance. A revolutionary approach at the time. During his life, von Stephanitz was unyielding in his standards, establishing the Society for the German Shepherd Dog, the SV. Through the society, von Stephanitz standardized breeding practices, ensuring the breed's characteristics remain intact. His mantra, utility and intelligence, still remains at the heart of the breed today. In the late 19th century, German canine breeds were numerous, each honed for a specific task. However, consistent traits across working dogs were lacking. Recognizing this, von Stephanitz searched tirelessly for a dog that had the physical ability and mental sharpness to serve multiple purposes. Picture this. In 1899, at a dog show, von Stephanitz's attention was caught by a dog named Hector Linkschrein. Moved by his agility and intelligence, von Stephanitz bought him immediately, renaming him Horrend von Graffith. Horrend became the first registered German Shepherd and the proverbial patriarch of the breed. Why is this significant? Well, Horrend's traits set the standard for breed selection. Breeding programs were then established, emphasizing utility and intelligence. It all goes back. Everything goes back to this one dog and breeding for utility, for its usefulness and its intelligence. Von Stephanitz co-founded the SV, an organization pivotal in guiding the breed's future. His motto, which is German, means fitness for work, ensured the breed's focus on ability rather than looks, which to me is still so amazing because German Shepherds are so beautiful. So this dog that is bred for his intelligence, for her, and bred for its utility, its usefulness, could still be so amazingly beautiful. Imagine discovering a dog breed so versatile and intelligent that it gains worldwide recognition. Captain Max von Stephanitz did exactly that. In the late 19th century, he began the journey of breeding the first German Shepherd, marking the origin of a remarkable legacy. Known for his famous credo, utility and intelligence, von Stephanitz's breeding program was meticulous. He selected dogs for their working ability and intelligence, traits that are synonymous with the breed today. With his careful planning and vision, the German Shepherd has become a favorite for various roles, including police work, search and rescue, assistance dogs. So we think about those, says police work. Their keen sense of discipline and intelligence is unmatched. Search and rescue, their tracking ability saves lives. These dogs that can just, they'll find people who are lost, small children, elderly people, people who don't know where they are or how they got lost. Assistance dogs. German Shepherds are one of the, or at least were one of the top breeds for assisting, for being leader dogs for the blind. Therapy dogs, just because they have the great temperament, they're so intelligent. They're versatile dogs. And no, not every German Shepherd is right for every role, but they are so versatile. A good trainer working with a German Shepherd, you're not stopping that dog. Why are German Shepherds suited to these jobs? Their strong work ethic and loyalty reflect von Stephanitz's breeding goals. The characteristics he instilled in the breed have not only made them excellent working dogs, but also beloved pets. They are trainable. They're highly responsive to training because they're smart and they want to please you. And so training them, is great. And again, all dogs are different. Not saying that all of them are just going to be like, sit, and they just sit. Okay, great. But they're very smart. So they're training them works really well generally. Courage. They possess a natural protective instinct that makes them brave. They'll go to the mat for you. Companionship. They form deep bonds with their owners. They know who their people are, right? While the popularization of the breed has indeed diluted some pure traits, diligent breeders continue von Stephanitz's work by emphasizing health and temperament. So the breeders who are working with German Shepherds, they're not just drawing a name out of a hat to breed with. They are doing their research on what the dogs are like, what their temperament is like, their health. We'll talk more later about the SV and the qualifications and everything that it takes to be certified and to breed a German Shepherd, especially in Germany, where the standards are just still so amazingly high. But breeders with German Shepherds who know their stuff are still putting out dogs that I think von Stephanitz would be proud of today, and his critiques would be positive. Recognition and honors. Did you know Captain Max von Stephanitz is often heralded as the pioneer of the German Shepherd? His unwavering dedication to developing a versatile working dog led to a legacy that continues today. In 1906, the Verein für Deutsche Schäferhunde, the SV, established by Stephanitz, honored him throughout its history. Lifetime achievement. The club regularly acknowledges his foundational role, celebrating his contributions at events and in publications. Posthumous tributes. Worldwide German Shepherd clubs recognize his impact through honorary titles and memorial awards in his name. International influence. Stephanitz's principles guide breed standards globally and shape the accolades German Shepherds receive. So even though he died 1936, he's still, people in the German Shepherd community especially, know who he was and what he expected, what his standards were when he started this breed. German Shepherd breed today. Just the other day, I couldn't help but smile as I watched a German Shepherd dog at the park, masterfully catching a Frisbee. That's the essence of this breed. Intelligent, agile, and always eager to work. Today's German Shepherds carry on the legacy of Captain Max von Stephanitz. They are beloved for their versatility and celebrated in various roles, from loyal family companions to disciplined working dogs. Male German Shepherds stand 23 to 25 inches tall and weigh 65 to 90 pounds, while females reach 22 to 24 inches in height and weigh between 50 and 70 pounds, showcasing the breed's robust and balanced stature. And again, of course, those are averages. There are always dogs that are going to fall outside those parameters, but it's a good window. Temperament. The modern German Shepherd is bold, confident, and fearless, known for their courage. They possess a high learning ability and enjoy the structured training, which contributes to their success as police and service dogs. Adaptability. They are remarkably adaptable to family life. They thrive on interaction. They love interacting. Work. They excel in roles like search and rescue, narcotics detection, as service pets. These dogs are bred for utility, for usefulness. They love to work. For them, having a job, that's part of the reward of their life. They love working. Climate. They adapt well to different climates thanks to their double coat. Acts as insulation, that double coat, against heat and cold. And we'll talk about that more in a future video about that double coat that German Shepherds have. Health and wellness. A healthy lifestyle is crucial for German Shepherd dogs, just like you, including a balanced diet and regular exercise. Regular vet checkups are vital to monitor for common health issues such as hip dysplasia. And again, when we start talking about more about the SB and the breeding, and we'll talk about how breeders, competent, ethical breeders, and they make sure, because these dogs have to go through tests, they have to have x-rays to make sure that they don't have things like the hip dysplasia, because you don't want to breed a dog that has that, right? And once again, they are, for the second year in a row, the fourth most popular breed in the United States. So I think that is our information for today on where did dogs come from wolves, and how, they still don't know. Still doing research on that one. Let's see. Well, here's a little bit more information, just in case you weren't ready to give up yet. Let's just take this. This is from the German Shepherd Dog Club of America. And there's just some information that we have not heard yet. Some of it will be a little bit reinforcing of what we've heard already, but that's never... Don't you learn that way? You learn that way better, don't you? Repetition, right? All right, let's see. Some of it will be new, though. So this is the history of the German Shepherd dog. Captain Max von Stephanitz founds a new breed. In 1889, Captain Max von Stephanitz began the standardization of the breed. It all started at a dog show in Karlsruhe in Western Germany. A medium-sized, yellow and gray wolf-like dog caught his attention. The dog was of the primal canine type, supple and powerful, and possessed endurance, steadiness, and intelligence. He was a working sheep herder, requiring no training other than direction and finish to become proficient at the task. This dog, Hector Linkshine, was purchased by von Stephanitz, renamed Horen von Graffith, and became the first registered German Shepherd dog. Von Stephanitz founded the Verein für Deutsche Schäferhunde, the SV, becoming the first president, and in a short period of time achieved the standardization of form and type in the breed. A standard was developed based on mental stability and utility. The captain's motto was utility and intelligence. To him, beauty was secondary, and a dog was worthless if it lacked the intelligence, temperament, and structural efficiency that would make it a good servant of man. A breed standard was developed as a blueprint dictating the exact function and relationship of every aspect of structure, gait, and inherent attitude. Von Stephanitz inbred heavily on Horen and also Lux, his brother, to consolidate the bloodline. Horen's best son, Hector von Schwaben, the second German seeker, was mated with his half-sister as well as through daughters of his own sons, Beowulf, Heinz von Starkenberg, and Pilot III. Intense inbreeding also concentrated undesirable recessive originating from the mixing of the original strains. Von Stephanitz then inserted unrelated blood of herding origin through Audifax von Graffith and Adalo von Graffith. The first German Shepherd dog is exhibited in America, 1907. Myra von Offringen, imported by Otto Gross, was shown by H. Dalrymple of Port Allegheny, Pennsylvania, in the open class at Newcastle and Philadelphia. The first championships awarded German Shepherd dogs was in 1913. 1913, 14 years after this man, von Stephanitz, created the breed, and it's winning championships. That's amazing. Although not so amazing if you know German Shepherds, right? The German Shepherd Dog Club of America is born in 1913. It was formed by Benjamin Throop and Ann Tracy with 26 charter members. The German Shepherd Dog Club of America's first specialty show was at Greenwich, Connecticut in 1915. Then in 1917, when America entered World War I, as we know, anything that's German, so it changed the name of the breed to the Shepherd dog, and the club became the Shepherd Dog Club of America. And the English changed the name to Alsatian. So if you've ever heard of an Alsatian and been like, what is an Alsatian? It's just another dog, another name for a German Shepherd. When Germany wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to be German. German Shepherd popularity after World War I. With the end of World War I came a new appreciation for the breed. The German army had made good use of the breed as a war dog. Tales told by returning U.S. fighting men, some bringing shepherds with them, and the intelligence and striking appearance of the dogs caught the attention of the general public. Rin Tin Tin and Strongheart, whose movies played on variations of the boy and his dog theme, shot the popularity of the breed sky high. Puppy factories flourished to meet the demand, gutting the American market with poor quality German police dogs, resulting in a downturn in popularity of the breed. So people just started popping out these German Shepherds with no thought to the breed standard. And people are like, well, this isn't what I thought I was getting. What's this all about? And, you know, that's, you still have to be careful, right? Serious breeding did continue, such as by Mrs. Harrison Eustace of Fortunate Fields Kennels in Switzerland. Her approach was completely scientific, with exhaustive research of breedings undertaken. The most widely known usefulness to which her dogs were put was as guide dogs for the blind at the famous Seeing Eye in Morristown, New Jersey. In 1922, Germany introduced a system of regular breed surveys, a criticism of each dog with graded description and recommendation for or against breeding. This type of system never caught on in America due largely to the cultural differences inherent in American society. However, good dogs were still produced as German dogs and were easily available for American dollars, highly sought after in inflationary Germany. So Germany never went, well, according to what we're reading here, Germany didn't go down that path of just breeding the dogs so more people can have German Shepherds at whatever. They kept to their standards, and that's how we still have the good pure bloodlines here in America. You know, people still import dogs from Germany to add to their breeding programs because those dogs are excellent. So that's how we still have excellent dogs here in the United States, fortunately. After World War II, the German Shepherd dog was widely sought after during World War II, employed by Allied and Axis forces as mine detectors, sentinels, guard work, messenger, and other services. In America, Dogs for Defense was formed, providing thousands of dogs to the Army. The paths of German and American Shepherds diverged after World War II. The Americans continued largely with the Pfeffer and Odin lines, while in Germany, the breed was in poor shape. Many dogs had been killed or destroyed due to lack of food. The best that was left was bred, frequently outcross breedings, since there was no great selection of line bred stock. Soon, the breeders had individual dogs dominant in the desired virtues. They then began to line breed or inbreed, so that by about 1949, quality specimens began to appear at German shows. The pedigree of these new dogs were largely the result of tight breeding without the influence of Pfeffer, but having the great dogs behind him. Prepotent sires emerged: Axel von der Dingenhauserheide, Rolf von Osnabrücker Land, and Hein von Richterbeck, representing preserved pre-war genetics. Through Pfeffer, American breeders established a beautiful type. This was concentrated by inbreeding and in combination with descendants of his half-brother, Odin von Busker Schloss. Many well-known kennels of the day utilizing these lines were Longworth, founded by Lloyd Brackett, Liebestrom, owned by Grant Mann, and Hessian, owned by Art and Helen Hess. In 1950s America, some breeders recognized the need for some infusion of outcross blood, and this was done through Clodo Blocksberg and Odin Stolzenfels line, which blended well with American taste for top line, croup length, and rear angulation. The Axel Rolf Hein combinations were also brought in notably by Troll von Richterbeck. Troll, 1957 Grand Victor, had tremendous appeal. He was dominant in producing rear drive, hindquarter strength, muscle, bone, and head. He was also dominant in producing straight upper arm, weak ears, blues, and fading pigment. All right. Bernd versus Kallengarten and Falk versus Engsfeld. Imports critical to the breed in America were Bernd v. Kallengarten and Falk v. Engsfeld. Bernd was imported by Ernie Lieb. Bernd was dominant for shoulder, forehand, bone, feet, substance, suspension, head, croup, tail set, and body length, but also weaknesses. All right, so remember, with strengths come weaknesses. Weaknesses for ears, steep croup, loose ligamentation, long coats, and high percentage of hip and elbow dysplasia. Of note is the fact that Bernd introduced the solid black gene into the American breed. So there's that solid black for the American here. But that loose ligamentation hip and elbow dysplasia. Bad, bad, bad. You don't want that. The famous F litter. F, the letter F. During the 1960s, there was an emergence of strong families of stud dogs. In Germany, the SV was in control, while in America, breeders were open to follow their own preferences. Troll wielded a large amount of clout in America by producing the famous F litter Arby wood, including Fells, Field Marshal, Fortune, and Fashion, bred by Lucy Woodard. This pedigree combined Odin Stolzenfels, Clodo Boxberg, Pfeffer, Oots, as well as the Axel Rolf Hein combination. The Arbywood males contrasted with their pure American counterparts, being stallion males with the desired type. All right. Let's see. And we have an interesting chronology here. 1864, von Stephanitz was born, became known as father of the breed. 1886, birthday of Dorothy Eustace, founder of the Seeing Eye. Remember, used German Shepherds for seeing eye dogs. 1893. Interesting. 1893, so before 1899, the Scientific American publishes an article about the German Shepherd dog, together with an illustrative sketch of German Shepherd dogs discussing the Flax Society. Bilex Society. 1899. On April 2nd, von Stephanitz founded the SV. 20 years later, they published the Corbish, the Breed Survey book, which outlined the suitability for breeding based on physical and mental characteristics. The SV became the largest breed club in the world. The SV, largest breed club in the world. 1901, the first Schützen trial is held in Germany. If you're familiar with Schützen at all, I'm sure we will end up doing at least one video on Schützen. 1904, German Shepherd dog first came to the U.S. 1906, Otto Gross imports 3 German Shepherd dogs that he shows at Westminster in the miscellaneous category. So he brought them in 2006 and showed them at the Westminster Dog Show in the miscellaneous category in 1908, 2 years later. In 1908, the first German Shepherd was registered with the AKC, and her name was Queen of Switzerland, owned by Adolf Vogt, according to the American Kennel Gazette. In 1909, so 1 year after Otto Gross shows Myra von Offingen, 5 German Shepherds are exhibited at the Westminster Kennel Club show. So 1 year later, there were 5. 1911, the American Review of Reviews carried an article entitled "The German Police Dog and What He Does." 1912, there were 7 German Shepherd dogs exhibited at the Westminster Kennel Club. Let's see, anything else interesting? Oh, in 1914, the first German Shepherd dog specialist, Baron von Fortner, was a judge at Westminster. Interesting. In 1915, the German Shepherd Dog Club of America published Schooling and Training the German Shepherd Dog, written by Max von Stephanitz and translated by Anne Tracy. Schooling and Training the German Shepherd Dog by the man himself, Max von Stephanitz. I think we will be looking that one up. How about you? Look up the book by the man himself. Absolutely. Don't you think? Aren't you interested? Don't you want to know what he says? Like, the best way? I mean, there's dog trainers of all different types, right? How interesting to find out what he, the man who founded the breed, what he sees or saw as the proper way to train, to school and train your German Shepherd dog. All right. In 1917, a special hero of World War I, a German Shepherd named Felix of Luano, had brought 54 wounded soldiers to safety, was exhibited at Westminster. Because of that dog, according to this, this dog brought 54 wounded soldiers to safety. That's a dog for you. Let's see here. This timeline is pretty, there's a lot to it, and a lot of it is names. Let's see, 1930, May 24th, 1930, at Morrison Essex, Captain Max von Stephanitz judges German Shepherd dogs. And on May 19th of 1930, members of the Shepherd Dog Club of America, remember, because they had taken the German out, they voted to change it back. They changed it back to the German Shepherd Club of America. 1932, Rin Tin Tin died, August 11th, 1932. All right. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this journey into some of the history, not only of German Shepherds, but of dogs themselves, as we look at where did they come from, wolves? Did they come from wolves? What line of wolves? What wolves did they come from? When did they become domesticated? As well as some early information on the founding of German Shepherds themselves, how they started. Hope you've enjoyed this time with us. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, so we know what you're interested in. Is there something that you want to know more about? Is there something about German Shepherds that you'd like to know more about? If we get our hands on this book, would you like a video on what Max von Stephanitz said about schooling and training your German Shepherd dog? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Feedback is awesome. Love having you with us, and we hope you've enjoyed this time. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and peace out.